May 11th, 2026, regular meeting of the Rochester Hills City Council. Ms. Bowe, will you please take roll?
President Carlock.
Here.
Vice President Mangioli. Here. Mr. Blair.
Here.
Mr. Lindberg.
Here.
Ms. Menino.
She's here. I just saw her. She's coming.
Ms. Neubauer.
Here.
Mr. Skelsey.
Here.
President Carlock, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. If everybody will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of agenda. I have not been made aware of any changes to the agenda. I have a motion by Councilwoman Neubauer, seconded by Vice President Mangioli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Next up, Council and Youth Committee reports. Today, I'm going to ask Director Ballant to come up and give us an update on the Great Lakes Water Authority water main break.
Sorry. I'm not used to coming up this early.
Yeah, it was a surprise.
I know. All right, good evening, Council President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, and City Council. Obviously, I'm here with Nathan Mueller to give you an update on the Great Lakes Water Authority, the 42-inch water main break that the leak actually started on May 6th, and it broke this weekend. First, before I give you an update, I just want to say that we have an incredible team. Leon Ludeman and his staff handled this situation exceptionally well. We have been in constant communication with the mayor and with Nathan and have received significant support from Parks, Building, and the fire departments. And we also want to do a big thank you to our residents for their constant conscious water usage, which is really helping maintain the supply in our system. So just to give you a little bit of background, again, we have been working with Great Lakes Water Authority, Auburn Hills, Pontiac, and Orion Township since the leak on Wednesday, May 6th. That is actually, is that better? Okay, sorry about that. That is actually what triggered our first boil water advisory, was just a reduction in the pressure in the system that put the northwest corner into a boil water notice. Since that time, we've had multiple meetings, multiple discussions of how we can get this Great Lakes Water Authority main repaired. You know, there's big concern with the disruption to the communities. So here we are. So on Sunday at about 1:35 a.m., the water main did break, and there are a couple pictures up here showing the significance. When it was leaking, it was just bubbling on the ground, so you can tell that it had a pretty significant. So this is where it shows Orion Township and a northern part of Auburn Hills in the yellow. Those are the communities that there was concern would be completely out of water or potential to be out of water. Going out of order. So again, DPS, so due to proactive planning, Rochester Hills DPS knew exactly what to do in case that the water main did break. So we rerouted the water. Typically that northwest section that's in the boil water advisory right now is fed from Walton Boulevard and the westerly city limit. We actually are pulling the water from South Boulevard all the way north. And that's why we're having, it's just a very volatile system, and we're having the low pressures. Today we made a slight modification to our booster station, and that's actually has really helped. So we're at about 45 PSI at Dutton and Adams, which is actually pretty good. They're usually at about 55. So that's really helped. So we've been with all the residents helping the best that they can. We're actually maintaining pressure and water in the city. The boil water the boil water advisory and the water restrictions will remain in effect indefinitely. As pressures could drop anytime within our system. You know, if people start using too much water, they could drop again, and we could go right back on a boil water advisory. So we are keeping those intact until the water main has been repaired. To lift the boil water advisory, water sampling is required. So Rochester Hills is currently determining the sample locations, how many samples need to be taken. Great Lakes Water Authority is actually going to assist us on taking those samples and sampling them, so all the communities are sampling at the same time. And we're going to have a meeting with them individually later this week to determine when the City of Rochester Hills will start flushing and when we'll start taking samples. An update on Great Lakes Water Authority and their repair. They have been really responsive, and they are working nonstop. They've been working 24 hours. Oh yeah, we have pictures. So that is the main that was pulled out. Next one. That is where, so that is the old main. You can see the size, and there was a significant hole in the main. Fortunately, it was between two joints, so instead of going 2 pieces of pipe, they were able to remove on joint to joint. So that is them lifting out the main, the old main, and this is the new main. So the new main was placed today. It's actually welded in, and they're finishing up a final weld on the pipe to connect it to the existing pipe tonight, and they're hoping to start actually filling the main, which is very impressive. It's gone pretty well so far. We have a ways to go, but so far it's going really well. So once we start filling, every day we have meetings. Our first meeting is 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll get updates, and then we'll start knowing when we can start sampling, when they're going to start sampling. At this time, we don't have a date of when this will be, when the system will be fully back in service. We're just taking it a day at a time, but so far things are going in the right direction. So with that, if you have any questions, Nathan and I are here to answer them.
Well, we most certainly appreciate everything that the, DPS, the engineering teams, everybody that has had anything to do with this, including the residents that have done their part. I also want to say a big thank you to the Rochester Hills Fire Department, Oakland County Sheriffs, and many of the staff here that were out manning the water distribution site today. I was out there for, hour and a half myself, and I think we probably gave away a couple thousand gallons of water in that time, pretty easily. But I would encourage the residents to go to rochesterhills.org, and there's a banner right across the top. Mr. Mueller is doing a good job of keeping that updated with the latest information, but there is the very first update as of today has information about the water distribution site at Von Mar at the Villages. It'll be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow. Water will be much more available tomorrow, I've heard, than it was today. But if you live in the affected area, please go by and get a couple cases of water. We do have some council comments and questions here. I will start off with Ms. Neubauer.
Thank you, President Carlock. I want to reiterate what President Carlock said. Thank you for everything you guys have been doing. Mr. Mueller, your communication has been so amazing. It's all over social media. We're trying to share everything that you're doing as well. So thank you guys, both of you, for everything you've been doing. I know it hit in the middle of the night on Mother's Day and a long weekend, and we just really appreciate that. One of the questions that we've been getting, and I don't know if you know the answer today or if you'll find out tomorrow, but why did this break if it was supposed to last 100 years and it's only been whatever it's been, 50 or 25 or whatever it's been? So.
Sure. I mean, on all pipe, they have a long life expectancy, but due to ground conditions, due to changes in pressures, unfortunately, it does happen.
So is there any way that I know that before this broke, there was some kind of indication that it was going to break. Is there any way that we can gauge in our city those kind of, the places in our city where we're vulnerable?
Sure.
So that we can do preventative or?
Right. So I think we have a pretty young system, and we do really good maintenance on our system. So we also don't have that size of main, and that was pretty significant and a significant feed to the other communities. We do have that material, You know, in some of our transmission mains within the city, actually, you'll see a project that we're doing on Rochester Road in 2027, and it's a mile of pipe that we're replacing between Hamlin and Avon, and it's the same pipe.
Okay.
So we are trying to be as proactive as we can.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And really, I mean, you guys have been amazing, and we don't expect anything less from you, but you guys, you prove yourselves over and over and over again. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Neubauer. Next up, Vice President Mangioli.
Thank you, President Carlock. So 4 of us up here are in the Boil Water
It's a big area.
Advisory. Yes, so we're living the dream with the rest of our residents. And as President Carlock said, yes, thank you to our staff here and the extended teams that have been helping us through this. I was on a call with a coworker today who lives in Orion.
So do I.
And there's no water. So the fact that we have something coming out of our faucets is a plus to the forethought of the design of our system to allow us to make this happen. So thank you, Ms. Belant, and your team for all the work that they have done, both in the past to make sure that we could do this and the fact that we can do it now. So thank you very much for your leadership in making sure that we could respond quickly. Nate, thank you again for all of the work that you're doing on communication, both to council in advance of any new posts that go out to the community as well. I have not heard a resident complain to me about their lack of knowledge of what's going on. And the fact that this room is fairly empty tonight, I think I see 2 residents in the group, means that we're getting the word out to our residents so that they know what is happening. I know I met many of them over at the Costco in Sterling Heights. Figured leave the water here for the residents here, I'll drive over there. And they were over there too, getting water. And Costco was great because they knew that the one in Auburn Hills was closed. So they had just kept bringing pallets of water out in the store so that the shoppers could get sufficient amount of water before they left. So it's been a tremendous job that you've done. Thank you very much, and to our extended team that's making that happen. And I know I have a sign-up sheet for not only council to say, hey, I'm going to give out water, but also for residents who want to come and help out as well. So thank you for sharing that so we can all come and do an hour or 2 at Von Mauer as long as the weather is staying nice. It'll be good to have that out there. And do we have to start the weather gods to say don't rain for the next 2 weeks so that the ground doesn't get wet to finish the repair work?
They're getting it backfilled, so we should be good.
Okay. Right. Impressive pictures. Again, thank you very much for all of your work. And thank you to our residents for your patience in helping us get this done and responding to make sure that, you know, the ones in the Brooklyns help the ones up by Adams High School. So we really appreciate all of the work across the city. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President Carlock.
Thank you very much. Mr. Skelsey.
Hi, thank you, President Carlock. My question, I got 2 questions, actually. The first is, are fire hydrants still affected by this?
Yeah, I can answer that. So there is low pressure in there, in the system in the northwest area that's under the Boil Water Advisory. Fire department is aware of that, and they have plans that they would not be utilizing the hydrants in case of a fire.
And my next question is, do they have any idea, like, how many gallons were lost?
You know, I haven't heard them say that yet. No, I don't know. I suspect it's a good amount, but
Right.
obviously, but no, I haven't heard them say anything like that.
And I'm sorry, I do have a third one. The, what is the material that the repair is made out of? Is it steel? Is it?
Oh, you know what? That's a good question, and I'll find out. I'm not exactly sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. To my fellow council, if you do go hand out water, you'll end up dressed like I am today. Notice I am not wearing the normal attire because you get quite sweaty handing that water out, so prepare. Again, thanks to everybody that was, that was involved in the communications, the repairs, the notifications, the water, everything that, we couldn't have asked for a better response to this point. So thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any further council comments on this particular item, so I will throw it over to our Youth Committee representative, Janelle Hayes, for a Youth Committee report.
Good evening, President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, council members, and citizens of Rochester Hills. My name is Chanel Hayes, and I'm a 12th grader at Stony Creek High School, and this is my 4th year serving on the Rochester Hills Government Youth Council. This past month, Youth Council had been debriefing on how to continue offering a premier cultural fair to the citizens of Rochester Hills. We estimated that approximately 550 to 600 residents attended the cultural fair this year, so we definitely saw an increase in numbers from last year. This month, we are volunteering in the Oak of the Hills event, marking the start of a beautiful, enriching summer, highlighting the beauty of the Parks Department here in Rochester Hills. The event will be hosted at Spencer Park from 11 to 3 p.m. on May 16th. As well, we are encouraging applicants from Rochester Hills that are in high school to apply for the 2026-2027 Rochester Hills Government Youth Council term. Applicants have until May 22nd to apply. More information can be found on the Rochester Hills website. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. And thank you for your time, and I'm willing to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hayes. Next up, Vice President Mangioli.
Thank you very much, President Carlock. So I do want to congratulate Janelle on her graduation. She has been serving on the RA board. We had asked to have youth representatives on different committees, and so Janelle has been on RA, and so it's been great having a youth voice as part of the RA Board of Directors. So thank you very much for serving there, and best of luck in your graduation. Ms. Bowman, could you share my screen, please? Okay. So as Janelle was talking about different community events, we have our Memorial Day Parade, and there's been some confusion about the start time of the parade. It is at 9:30. So everybody has to meet in downtown Rochester. They have their City of Rochester has their event at the Mount Avon Cemetery starting at 9 o'clock. Then from 9:30 we will start the parade. I have the sheet that says, here's the order in which we're going. We're car number 7. We're taking my convertible, and I'm hoping that the weather will be nice. So we've got that. The parade will start at 9:30 at Mount Avon Cemetery, and it progresses through this map here, down Harding, down to Livernois, and end at the Veterans Memorial Point in Rochester Hills, where the mayor will have his ceremony that starts at 10:30, so they're giving us an hour to walk that route. We have a number of different floats that are coming with us. And then if you're hungry after that, all that workout, you can go over to the Rochester Fire Department at 11:30 to 1 for hot dogs. So please make sure you're planning accordingly. There is detours that are posted on both the city's website and the Chamber of Commerce. So if you're looking for more information about the parade, please look for that information, and signage will be out shortly letting people know there's a detour. Then this is Police Week. I just wanted to make sure everybody is aware of Police Week. This was started by President Kennedy all those years ago, and it's a time for us to congratulate our policemen, thank them for all their efforts in our community, and recognize the sacrifices they make in keeping our community safe. Also, May is Mental Health Month. And for me, this is something that is important. It is something as a theme I have covered on my years as council, and I wanted to bring it back to our attention this month as well. When I grew up, if you said you had something mental, you were in the mental hospital and you were crazy and they locked you up with a straitjacket. We now have a much kinder, gentler view of mental health. And if I were to say I had a physical ailment, then somebody would say, oh, I'm sorry, what doctor are you going to? But if you talk about a mental ailment, I'm sad, I'm stressed, there's a lot of effort going on, or maybe there's something more significant in your life. People don't know how to respond because there has been a stigma around mental health and talking about the issues related to mental health for a long time. And as I said, since I was a kid, you went to Willowbrook Mental Hospital, which is thankfully long closed. But we need to make sure that we start taking the stigma away from people that are suffering from just life challenges. It might be short, it might be long term, but it is our time for us to talk about mental health. There are a lot of different things that can impact your mental health. We just talked about one. I now have to deal with, do I take a shower in the morning? Do I wait till the afternoon? Can I wait another day? Do I tell work I smell and I shouldn't go into the office? But there's different things that impact you, whether it be a life experience that you're going through, changes as our kids graduate or as they move on to college, all of those things. Sometimes it can be dietary issues that, have a new food or a new prescription that impacts your mental facilities. So we want to make sure that you're understanding there are many things that can impact your mental health. So there are ways to help, and I grabbed this actually off of a post that I had shared on my social media on ways that you can help yourself. Moisturize everything. Feel good about how you feel. Wear those comfy clothes. No one says that you have to wear a jacket every council meeting, President Garlock, if you need to feel more comfortable. Blast the music. I love my convertible, and usually if I'm driving by myself, the music is very loud. So find those ways to make you feel better. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Worry about you. There are local resources, both in Common Ground, the Rochester Resiliency Center, and your faith community. More than likely, there are places that you can go to for help if some of these other cuddling with your pets things don't help. Seek out those people to find, to talk to find more formalized ways of dealing with a mental health issue that you have. But don't be afraid, and don't let the stigma of mental health keep you from getting the help that you need. So that is my message for today. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you very much, Vice President Mangioli. We do have Chief Gary. I saw free hot dogs, so I will be there. I need to make up for the cow. Oh, is it Rochester? Oh, well, I can't walk that far, so. Okay. Oh, perfect. Next up, Ms. Menino.
Yes, thank you, President Carlock. I'd like to give a couple updates on some activities at the OPC and the museum. So, Emma, please share my screen, okay? So first up, the OPC is hosting a Parkinson's workshop on Tuesday, May 19th from 4 to 7:30. And this is an engaging workshop where individuals with Parkinson's, their care partners, and community members come together to discover valuable resources, share support, and connect. The program is made possible by a grant from the Community Foundation of Greater Rochester. So if you or anyone you know in your family or friends has Parkinson's, this may be an interesting and helpful workshop for you. Secondly, a couple other fun events coming up at the OPC that benefit their main charity, Meals on Wheels. The OPC's annual 5K run walk to benefit the Meals on Wheels. It's Saturday, June 6th, starting at 8 p.m. Registration is available online or the day of from 7 to 7:50. The course is flat along the scenic Clinton River Trail with one hill returning back to the OPC. This is a chip time event with awards or untimed if you prefer. Celebrate the finish with a delicious pancake breakfast. Event participants, they'll eat free. Additional tickets can be purchased for family and friends. For more information, please check out the OPC website. And then secondarily, they have their annual soiree, and this year the theme is Feelin' Groovy. So this OPC's Feelin' Groovy Summer Soiree, it's a far-out evening, and I mean far-out in quotes, far-out evening to support the Meals on Wheels. The annual event will be held on Friday, June 19th from 6:30 to 10. Tickets are currently on sale. It's delicious food, live music, and a silent auction, and definitely a night to remember. So please keep these in mind if you're looking for any good activities that can really benefit a very good charity, Meals on Wheels at the OPC. Next up, we have some happenings at our local museum here, the Rochester Hills Museum. The focus this month, for the end of May through June, will be celebrating America's 250th anniversary, and they have a display currently going on, a 6-panel display called The Underground Railroad in Oakland County. And this is a multi-community public history project to research and provide access to evidence-based local underground railroad history. Sounds very interesting.
It's Fridays and Saturdays through June 30th from 12 to 3 p.m., and admission is free. So come in and check it out. And then additional activities for celebrating America's 250th. They have some activities. Stony Creek chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution. They're presenting a ceremony in honor of the 250th, and they're recognizing 3 Revolutionary War patriots that are buried actually in the cemetery. Additionally, the chapter will present a new National Society Daughters of American Revolution America 250th marker, which will be put in the cemetery. That's Saturday, May 16th, 3 to 4 p.m., taking place at Mount Avon Cemetery in Rochester. And then lastly, there's a Greater Rochester Area Heritage Festival taking place Saturday and Sunday, May 30th, May 31st, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. up at the Rochester Municipal Park in Rochester. So the museum will be featuring artifacts to explore history and to go page through. They'll have trivia information and more. Also a car show, hot dog eating contest, reenactments of historical reenactments, and vintage baseball. So a lot of entertainment. Sounds like fun, so please check it out if you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Menino. Let me get back to my screen here. I don't see any further council updates, so we will move on to recognitions. Item number 2026-0226. Proclamation and recognition of Building Safety Month, May 2026. I'll read the proclamation here. Building Safety Month, May 2026. Whereas the City of Rochester Hills is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a U.S.-based organization that brings together local, state, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas the international codes used by the City of Rochester Hills include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as snowstorms, tornadoes, floods. And whereas Building Safety Month is an opportunity to remind the public about the critical role of the community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. And whereas Built to Last, the theme for Building Safety Month 2026, encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. Now, therefore, be it resolved that May 2026 will be designated Building Safety Month in the City of Rochester Hills. Accordingly, our citizens are encouraged to join their fellow Americans in participating in Building Safety Month awareness by assisting in efforts to improve building safety. Mr. Vyzanko, thank you, and to you and your team.
Thank you very much. President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, City Council, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for your continued support on declaration of month as May being the Building Safety Month. Every year, the International Code Council pushes and promotes this event. It's a national event that's not just held in Rochester Hills, it's held in the United States. And they also create a theme, and this year's theme is Built to Last. And the reason we do all of this is because we want to people understand that the construction codes are here to be helpful to them. So it's not there to be a hindrance, it's there to be helpful. And studies have shown that after a catastrophic event, newly constructed homes, buildings to current construction codes has proven to protect the buildings while other buildings and structures have been devastated or destroyed. So I want to just express my gratitude for the continued support. As the current Vice President of ICC Executive Board Region 5, which also consists of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, it gives me much pleasure to say in my board meetings that Rochester Hills has got another proclamation, and it does get submitted to the International Code Council. We are probably one of the only communities that consistently submits a proclamation annually. So it wouldn't happen without the support of everybody. So thank you very much. And our next event, just to let you know, will be May 13th at the OPC. And then we also are doing an event at the Innovation Hills on May 29th. And one event that we haven't secured a date on is with the local lumberyard. So more events coming. We'll be working with the mayor's office to keep things up to date on social media. So thank you very much, and we'll see how the events go.
Perfect. Thank you very much for all you and your team do, Mr. Vyzanko.
Thank you.
Next up, item 2026-0230, proclamation in recognition of National Public Works Week, May 17th to 23rd, 2026. I'll read this proclamation. The text is a little bit bigger. Whereas National Public Works Week, May 17th, 2020, May 17th, to the 23rd, 2026. Whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by American Public Works Association, and whereas the infrastructure, facilities, and services provided by the Rochester Hills Department of Public Services are the foundation of our city's health, safety, and vibrant quality of life, and whereas our dedicated DPS team works tirelessly behind the scenes, maintaining the roads we drive on, ensuring that the best quality water flows to our homes, preserving our beautiful pathways and public spaces, and keeping our community resilient through every season and storm. And whereas these vital services are made possible only through the expertise, hard work, and unwavering commitment of the engineers, managers, and field staff who rebuild, improve, and protect the local systems essential to our residents. And whereas the responsiveness, pride, and professionalism displayed by the Rochester Hills DPS directly contribute to making our city one of the premier places to live, work, and raise a family. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders of Rochester Hills to recognize and maintain an ongoing understanding of the critical contributions these dedicated professionals make every single day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Mayor of Rochester Hills does hereby designate the week of May 17th to the 23rd, 2026, National Public Works Week in the city of Rochester Hills. And he urges all residents to join us all in extending our deepest gratitude to our Department of Public Safety team for their hard work, commitment, and substantial contributions to the safety, health, and well-being of our entire community. Interim Director Ballant, I will say that everybody up here signed this well before anything was going on with that pipe. So this is not, not influenced by the awesome work that the DPS team has been doing, but well-deserved by that team for sure.
Thank you. And just on behalf of all of DPS, thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, presentations, item 2026-0223, legislative update by Senator Michael Weber.
Thank you. Thank you, President Carlock, members of the City Council, Mayor's Office. Michael Weber, I do serve as the state senator for the 9th District, which includes Rochester Hills, the greater Rochester area, Troy, Sterling Heights, Utica, and Shelby Township. And similar to in past years, I'm trying to do a couple legislative updates again this year, so one in the spring, one in the fall. And as And also, just to start off, and a great update on what's going on with the water situation. Appreciate the response from the city council, city officials, and I know Macomb Chamber, they hosted the governor at the governor's luncheon today, and she talked about issuing the state of emergency at the state level. But if there's anything that we can do at the state level, I'm certainly willing to work with you guys on that. In terms of what we're doing right now is we're really kind of getting into budget season. Both the House and the Senate have passed budgets. This Friday, we're going to have a revenue estimating conference again. Had one in January, going to have one again in May, to really take a look at like where the revenues are at as we're getting into the really trying to negotiate the budget, hopefully by the end of June. Obviously, it doesn't go into effect till October 1st, but last year we went past that July 1 date, and we're trying to hit that this year. And again, we've got to live within our means within state government. I know the budget, decreased for the first time in many years last year, and try to bring some more balance to the growth of where we're at with state government. I will just highlight a couple of the projects. Obviously, I've been able to work with Rep. Tisdale on for the city, including the $2 million that we were able to get in terms of roadway infrastructure and access for Nowicki Park, and then also the $175,000 to continue the Common Ground Victim Assistance program, and have been in communication with the mayor's office on potential projects for this year and putting those forward and into the discussion, into the mix. In terms of revenue sharing and roads, the governor's proposal did not include an increase for statutory revenue sharing. Constitutional revenue sharing expected to decrease by 2.5%. Due to the removal of the sales tax on gasoline, obviously as part of the road funding deal last year. But I will say, because of that road funding deal, Rochester Hills is expected to receive over $3.3 million, or a 33% increase in road funding on a yearly basis, so including this year. In terms of revenue sharing, we were successful in getting the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund legislation passed through the Senate. It passed unanimously 2 weeks ago. I know in the House, Rep. Tisdale's been a champion of that for a long time. So hopefully it has not been moving in the House this session, but hopefully we can get some sort of agreement on that. I know the revenue sharing piece of the Senate budget is predicated on Revenue Sharing Trust Fund, and so I think that that's a positive sign moving forward, and we'll see if this is finally the session we can get that done and get it across the finish line on a bipartisan basis. I know everybody, and we've been hearing from, I think I've heard from all of you about the housing package in the House, and I think there may be more discussion on that later this week. Again, I'm in the Senate, so we're not necessarily looking at it from that standpoint. But I will say, you have the package that has been introduced, and then you do have, Michigan Municipal League has kind of worked on a different package of bills that I know, again, Rep. Tisdale, Rep. Steckloff from Farmington area, they've introduced in the House. We're trying to get that same package introduced in the Senate as part of our Michigan Municipal League caucus. But all told, I think, what a lot of our residents are talking to us about is housing and how we can try to get more housing built in the state of Michigan. We've been slower than some of our other states. And so while I don't believe preemption at the state level is the right way to go, we are certainly, I think we all need to work collaboratively to try to figure out what we can do as a state to try to get our housing, moving in the right direction. I know the stat, $90,000 to $95,000 in costs in terms of some of these regulatory costs. And what that's doing, especially with the inflation and the housing market, is obviously it's putting housing out of reach for a lot of our, especially our younger folks, and this and that. So we're trying to address that need. but obviously have some challenges and concerns with the preemption package, and so we will see what happens at the House level on that, but that's been very much House-driven right now. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight, we are still working on, and I know I've been teamed up with Rep. Robinson, who is a new representative that represents Utica, and we have been working on legislation to fund sound walls at the state level. So it would be a funding mechanism within the MDOT budget. The legislation that we have, my bill is Senate Bill 80, and then Rep. Robinson has a bill that's passed through the House Transportation Committee. But all it would do is basically just set up the fund, and then obviously within the MDOT, within the budget process, we would have to fund it as a state, and we see it as kind of working as a grant program in terms of the cities, counties, and this and that could try to apply for some of these dollars to try to do some sound abatements, some sound walls where the federal government through federal projects was not able to do that. So I'm thinking obviously M59 for our area, but then also I represent areas that are affected by I-75 and then M53 as well. And so it's good to work with Representative Robinson on that front, and we are continuing that fight. Yep, and then for residents here and at home, for more information, sign up for our monthly e-news. Please visit senatormichaelweber.com or call our office 517-373-0994. So that's our update.
Thank you very much, Senator Weber. Lots going on, so we appreciate the update for sure. We do have some council comments and questions.
For sure.
First up, Vice President Mangioli.
Thank you, President Carlock. Thank you very much, Senator Weber, for sharing this update with us. I was going to ask you about the housing bills because I got a notice from SEMCOG to call your representatives, and I know it's in the House still, not the Senate, but you'll have influence when it does arrive there. For me, one of the things I heard from GMAR, the Greater Metropolitan Area Realtors, is that when they're selling homes, people look at the schools, the community, and then the house. And people may change the house structure, from a two-story to a ranch, if they can get the schools and the community they want. And so I'm going to ask that, root cause the issue. Are there houses that are built in communities that maybe need improvements to their schools or need help for their community to have the beautiful parks like we have? So that this way, a community that wouldn't be considered aspirational today might be in the future if we redirected our efforts instead of subsidizing housing, but supplanted or subsidized the communities to make them a more desirable place to live. Because there has to be a reason why people won't move to some places. There's houses, but they won't move there. So find out why they won't move there and fix those problems before you tell me I need to make our zoning and our density higher in Rochester Hills when there may be houses in a neighboring community here in Oakland County.
Sure.
The question, gas prices. Is there anything in the price structure of a gallon of fuel that the state legislature has any control over that could help us at this point?
We do have our state gas tax, and of course that has been part of this road funding discussion. But yeah, I think there has been already some discussion about, do we try to suspend that for some time? And I know even at the federal level they're talking about that. And so we will see if that comes to fruition or not. But yeah, that's definitely something that we could do, that we could look at.
So do we need to call Rep. Tisdale and some of the other neighboring reps to say, hey, by the way, I can't come to your meeting because the gas is too high to drive that far?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's obviously it's give and take. We're not going to be able to hit what we're doing from a budget standpoint in terms of roads, but people are really hurting right now, and if we can do something in the brief time period on some of these gas taxes, whether it's at the federal or state level, yeah, it's something that needs to get looked at and addressed.
Because families are making decisions based on the gas is expensive, food has and prices have gone up. So how do I manage, that family vacation is not going to happen this year, or we're going to scale it back in order to account for other budgetary restrictions. So if there's anybody that we can help you, encourage the state legislature to do something relative to gas prices, please let us know.
Okay.
And thank you for coming to see us.
Yeah.
Thank you, President Carlock.
Thank you, Vice President Mangioli. One more, Senator Weber, Ms. Neubauer.
Thank you, President Carlock. So as you know, I sit on planning, zoning, and then obviously here. So we've been talking about this housing package that I know is in the House, but it will eventually come to you. And just want to put this on the record. First of all, what Vice President Mangioli said is 100% right. There are vacancies and there are homes that people can move into, but they don't want to go into that community for other reasons. And taking a bulldozer effect where you take away local control, make a statewide mandate where they are preemptive and want to tell us how to be able to take my home right now, this package the way that it was originally proposed, I would be able to tear down my house and put 6 new houses in its place with the way that the package was presented. And that's not what the residents of Rochester Hills want. And I think what Vice President Mangioli said was correct. We have to precisely attack the problem that I think this housing package had the best of intentions because there is a housing shortage, but I don't think that we can have a statewide solution to individual communities. We have to figure out we have to pinpoint and figure out what we need to do. We've been talking about this in planning. I know you know how to look at our minutes, but if there's anything that you need from us to support you, we don't want this package. And I'm not a big fan of this counter package that was presented because it's almost trying to entice us into the same kind of, I feel like it's trying to trick us into the same kind of situation. And I agree with you, we have to work collaboratively on this issue, but we cannot take local control away from the cities.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm not, as well-versed as Rep. Tisdale is on the MML, like My Home package, but I think it's kind of trying to do more of a carrot versus a stick approach. And, but again, it's totally up to you guys as city council folks, but at the same time, we all have the same residents that we're representing, and that's kind of what we're hearing from them is housing costs, that kind of thing. And so I think at the state level, we're at least trying to and again, there's some bad ideas out there, but they're trying to at least talk through some of these ideas and what we can do as a state.
I completely understand, and like I said, I think this housing bill had the best of intentions, and I understand that there's a housing crisis, but I don't think that the housing crisis, for example, is the same in Rochester Hills as it is, for example, in Saline, where they have so much acreage they want to bring a data center. We have to just be really careful about treating every community with a broad brush. We have to make sure that we, and when you say it's up to us on city council, it won't be up to us on city council if we're preempted by the state. So we just have to be really careful about that. And I just wanted to put that on the record because we do represent the 75, 80,000 people here, and I don't think anybody wants to tear down their house and have 5 or 6 put in its place. So,
Sure.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very
Very
much.
good. Have a great meeting.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Senator Weber. Next up, item 2026-0221, request for acceptance of the fiscal year-end 2025 annual comprehensive financial report presented by the audit firm of Riemann PLLC. Mr. Schneider.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, members of the City Council. My name is Dan Merritt. I'm here from Raymond Robson to present the city's 2025 financial statement audit. So we'll start, I'll try to give a brief introduction to our firm, who we are, and then we'll start talking through what is a financial statement audit and what were the results of the city's audit for the most recent fiscal year. So myself, Dan Merritt, as the signing engagement principal, I lead our engagement team to perform the financial statement audit for the city. We work closely with Joe, Mike, and their team on the management end. We are, of course, at Raymond, a full-service accounting firm, but we have a specialization in doing local government audits. We've been doing them since they were required by Public Act 2 of 1968, and we have approximately 300 of our 1,100 professionals dedicated to doing nothing but public sector work during the year. We're headquartered here in Oakland County, and it's our pleasure to continue to be the city's audit firm for the third year in a row. Myself and my team do nothing but local government audits. That means we spend appreciably all of our time during the year auditing cities, counties, townships, other units of local government. So what is a financial statement audit? I think it's always important to start off any public presentation of a financial statement audit with a disclaimer that it is not an investigation of fraud. I am not here because something is wrong or something is suspected of being wrong. Every city in the state of Michigan requires a financial statement audit from the Department of Treasury to be submitted 6 months after fiscal year end. The city of Rochester Hills goes above and beyond the requirements in a couple of ways. First, it requires that its financial statement audit be completed and submitted by the beginning of May, which is 2 months earlier than the state of Michigan deadline. And second, the city submits an annual comprehensive financial report for GFOA submission and recognition. So it produces 188 pages this year of quality financial reporting and goes above and beyond the basic requirements of a financial statement audit. The most important thing that I can tell you here tonight is that we've given an unmodified opinion on the financial statements of the city of Rochester Hills. In the business, we call this a clean opinion. That means we think that those financial statements can be relied on to make good decisions, and that you as city council can use them and submit them for regulatory and public inspection. This year, the city did not require what's called a single audit of its schedule of expenditure of federal awards. If the city were to expend, at this point, now the threshold is $1 million, more than $1 million during any given fiscal year, you would require an additional single audit. The city did not require one for fiscal year 25. I'm going to briefly run through financial highlights, and then I promise I'll spend a little bit more time kind of pointing out some of the key pieces in these financial highlights as we go through the presentation. The city saw total growth in assets of $35.2 million, total increases of liabilities of $17.7 million, approximately a $3 million increase in property tax revenue, $10.2 million of investment income. The general fund balance of the city held steady at approximately $18.7 million in accordance with the city's fund balance policy. The city continued to invest in its water and sewer system, and the city, as is historically true, has no pension liability, and its OPEB liability is completely funded and presents as a net asset. So let's spend the next couple of slides drilling down into some of those big picture ideas of financial summary and results. So each of these slides, I'll try to point out 2 or 3 things that I think are of pertinent importance and worth your attention. So here on our first slide, assets, we're talking about things that have future value to the city. The city saw a small, respectively, growth in cash and investments of about $4.7 million. That's primarily due to good fund results. The city has a structural surplus. You're going to hear me say that a few times across most of its governmental and business type funds. That means that you budget carefully, that you spend less than you bring in, hence structural surplus. The city saw an increase in receivables during the year of about $12.5 million. The biggest component of that was related to the golf course contract that the city entered into with a third-party operator. Under governmental accounting standards, what you then have to do is you have to put the present value of those future receipts of that contract that goes out for the next 50 years through 2075 on the books now as an asset and a liability. So when we get to the next slide, you'll see a roughly corresponding increase in liabilities. That doesn't mean that you'll only make an additional $12 million on that contract for the next 50 years. That's just the net present value of the fixed receipts. The city did a good job of negotiating that contract, and we'll also have some, revenue sharing that's a component of that agreement, and we expect that that will probably be an even more substantial future inflow to the city. Finally, on this slide, the city saw growth in net capital assets of approximately $18 million. I think perhaps Joe and his team have done the best job in the financial summary that you can get right there near the beginning or the entrance to the room here of describing some of those investments in durable assets for the city. So, between Nowicki Park, Brooklands Plaza, Innovation Hills, the one thing that this doesn't capture is that the city also made a substantial investment in roads and continues to invest in its sort of major and local streets as well throughout the year to maintain and improve those roads. On the liability side, this is, of course, what does the city owe other parties? The city is debt-free here in 2025. And you're going to say, Dan, you just said you're debt-free, but there's a line that says long-term debt there. Well, that's because the city participates in some contractual borrowing through the county to maintain its water and sewer system. So those liabilities are maintained on the books as debt, but it is not direct debt of the city. The city paid off its last debt issuance in February of 2025 that was governmental debt. You also see an increase in the liability category. It's called a deferred inflow. That's going to be future revenue of the city. As property tax values go up, as property tax revenue goes up, that deferred inflow goes up. As it's collected, of course, the city levies on December 1st, collects throughout December, it gets put into a liability account and then recognized in the next year to pay for next year's budget. Third, you see that line that I promised you, which is if that asset goes up on the golf course side, you also see the increase. It's called a public-private partnership, or PPP, under GASB 94. That's what that is. It's saying, we're not saying you got new revenue. We're not contributing to the bottom line here. We're just representing the future value of a 50-year contract. Next, let's talk inflows. So money coming into the city's governmental funds. How does the city pay for its budget? Well, of course, the biggest contributor to the city's budget is property taxes. Property tax values in the city of Rochester Hills continue to be quite strong. As you can see, that line continues to move up and to the right, and as long as property tax values remain strong, the city will have a solid property tax base to pay for its future budgetary needs. Some of the other important components of the city's revenue streams include intergovernmental revenue, that's state revenue sharing and grants. The city has some new grants like the EGLE cleanup grant that contribute to its revenue base. And the city has, and I'm going to put Joe on the stand here for a second, just to say maybe the best investment program that I've seen. The city manages its money very, very carefully, and I don't think there's a dollar that isn't earning interest that Joe doesn't pretty sure pretty quickly that it gets into a vehicle to earn some income whenever it's not needed to make payroll to pay for other current liabilities. And so the city continues to have a very high investment income thanks to that careful management by city finance of its investment vehicles. General fund balance continues to be strong. I would point out two things on this slide. First, you kind of see a leveling off of general fund balance in 2024 that continues in 2025. That's mostly due to the city's fund balance policy. I would guess that as you move down towards that 20% that target that the fund balance policy implemented, we're going to see a measured, careful, planned drawdown of general fund balance as that money moves to fund new capital projects for the city over the next several years. Almost all of the general fund balance is unassigned. That means it's not committed for other purposes. It's available for the city to budget and use. Another one of the city's significant financial management categories is its water and sewer fund. In the water and sewer fund, the city has moved slightly up in liquidity in 2025. That's that green bar. To us, that's generally a good thing. The city carefully drew down on its cash and investments balance over the last 4 years to try to fund improvements to the system. Well, the city managed to continue to fund improvements to the system this year and increase liquidity ever so slightly. That's a good thing. That means that the city has choices about how to finance future capital projects. If you have no cash, your choice is borrow. So if you have cash and you can continue investments, that means you can choose if you need to borrow to fund capital projects or if you can fund them out of cash and investment liquidity. I mentioned earlier that the city has no pension liability. That decision was made many years ago and continues to pay dividends for the city. The city offers a very generous defined contribution pension plan as opposed to a defined benefit pension plan. So there is no big liability like most cities in the state of Michigan where you're trying to pay off this unfunded future liability. The city does have some promises to future retirees for post-employment benefits. That now presents as a net asset. That's that green bar on the right side. If your future actuarially guessed liability is less than your plan investments, so your blue bar is less than your black bar here, that means you have a net OPEB asset. This is good because it means the city isn't currently having to make contributions and likely will not have any more contributions in the city. It is close to what I believe we would describe as perpetually funded. In fact, I believe Joe is planning to de-risk that portfolio over the next couple of years so that there will be no question around, how will that money be funded in the future, and means the city can spend its budget on other things not contributing to pay for those promises of future benefits. All right, I think last slide here, and then of course I'll be happy to take any questions you might have. We're required to communicate certain things about the results of the audit as part of wrapping up and concluding on the city's audit. So first, we have to assess accounting estimates. I know it feels like accounting should be something that should be very black and white. There should always be a yes or a no, but in fact, Joe, Mike, and their team have to make a lot of guesses at gray pension liabilities. How long will a pipe or a capital asset last? Will it last 50 years, 100 years? You have to guess at that for accounting purposes. We assessed all of their estimates and deemed them reasonable. Second, we had no difficulties working with management during the audit. If your auditor ever says to you during a board meeting, this board, any other board, hey, we're having difficulties dealing with management, that's a major red flag. You should ask lots of questions immediately. Perhaps we have the opposite situation here. I have nothing but glowing things to say about Joe and Mike and their team, how responsive they are, how easy to work with they are. When we have questions, they're always answered. When we ask for support, it's always provided, and they do it darn fast. They start the audit at the beginning of March, and they're done with the audit before the beginning of May, which is, for a city, a very tight turnaround. Third and fourth, we're also required to report and discuss with you if there are any material audit adjustments, misstatements, or findings. Findings come as one of two types. You can have a material weakness, that's the big bad thing. You can have a significant deficiency, that's the less bad thing. I know significant deficiency still sounds pretty bad. We had no material audit adjustments, no misstatements, no findings, either material or immaterial of any kind. We do make some recommendations to management as part of our partnership with the city. That's normal and regular. We almost always have some type of recommendation that gets communicated throughout the process. That's not a finding, that's not an issue. It's an opportunity for improving internal controls. So let me summarize all these things that I've just told you. I'll try to boil it down into three things. First, the city really invests in personnel, right? It has a highly experienced team of professionals. That's why you can get your reporting done so quickly. That's why you have clean audit reports. Second, the city invests in capital and personnel outside of finance. Wage studies, trying to make sure you have the best people in the best places. That continues to be visible in the improvements made throughout the city, whether it's water, sewer infrastructure, or maintaining major and local streets. And finally, the city continues, at the most basic thing we can say, you've got a structural surplus in most of your funds. You bring in more than you spend. You continue to manage your money wisely. That means you have flexibility and stability for future operations and capital investments. With that, that brings me to the end of my prepared comments, but I'm more than happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much. Very thorough and not surprising from Joe and that team. Our fiscal team is always on the ball and highly responsive. So, yeah, we appreciate all the comments and the fact that it was done so quickly. So we do have some council comments. Start with Vice President Mangioli.
Thank you, President Carlock. So does this mean we get another plaque for the wall out in the hallway?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, oh, the button on the plaque, because we were running out of wall space is what happened.
You have a
so-
lot of plaques.
We
We'll
do
try
have
to
a
add
lot
to
of
it.
plaques. We have a great team, and thank you for acknowledging the great team that we have. One of your items mentioned that there was a letter that was sent that had some recommendations for us. What are the impact of those recommendations?
Fairly minimal. Our recommendation this year primarily surrounded the procedures in place for obtaining information from Oakland County to record certain transactions.
Should we be surprised about Oakland County not being responsive to our questions?
I certainly understand, and, our recommendation was basically, well, you need to push them a little harder if they're not going to give it to you in practice because they're for your books. But again, very best practice, very fine-tuned, really small.
So it's not us, it's Oakland County that's deficient in their ability to respond to.
You could describe it that way.
I will describe it that way, thank you. As our council has noted in the past, I tend to be direct on that one, on Oakland County. It's great to have a clean audit. I appreciate all the information, love the detail that you provide to us, as well as our own staff. This sort of semi-officially kicks off budgeting because we finished up last year. Now it's time to go into the next year, so thank you very much. And with that, I move the resolution in our packet, President Carlock.
Thank you very much, Vice President Mangioli. I have a second by Mr. Blair. I don't see any further council comments or questions, so I'll read the resolution here. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby acknowledges receipt of the annual comprehensive financial report from city administration and the auditing firm of Raymond PLLC for fiscal year end 2025. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much for all the work, both of you.
Thank you for having me.
Next up, consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If any council member or citizen requests discussion of an item, it will be removed from consent agenda for separate discussion. I have a motion by Councilwoman Neubauer, seconded by Mr. Limburg. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes. Next up, public comment for items not on the agenda. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. I don't see any blue public comment cards, so we will close public comment at this time. Next up, legislative and administrative comments. I don't see any council looking to make comments at this time, so I will throw it over to administration. Ms. Sudrovich.
Thank you so much. Ms. Bowen, if you could share my screen here. President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, council members, and Ms. Hayes, good evening. I'm Erin Sidrovich. I'm Mayor Barnett's Chief of Staff and happy to be here this evening on his behalf to provide some administrative comments. We've heard a lot about this already, but obviously there is a lot going on with water in and around the city, and we wanted to be sure to offer our gratitude to everyone who has been working hard to adhere to the voluntary water restrictions and who is having to go through the boil water advisories. We are very, very grateful for the patience and support of all of our residents. We are absolutely seeing the impact. It is working. We heard a lot of comments already from our team, but I do want to echo the thanks that the council already gave from the administration to Tracy Ballant, our interim director of the Department of Public Services, and to Leon Luderman, our water and sewer operations manager. They have led the charge on this effort from the beginning. When last Wednesday the leak was discovered, and they are quite literally working around the clock on this, and we definitely appreciate their efforts, and we're fortunate to have them among the best and brightest here right in Rochester Hills. So that is good news for everyone involved. Also, a big thank you to our GIS team who put this amazing map together. This is actually accessible on our website and has been really instrumental in helping us help our residents and helping our residents help themselves to understand where they're located and what that means for them. You can enter your address and see if you're part of the boil water advisory or not. As you can tell, this actually does show that the whole city is under the water use restriction and that the northwest corner is under the boil water advisory. And certainly we want to make sure that everybody does stay informed and updated. And the best way to do that is to visit rochesterhills.org, our website. You can also subscribe to RH Connect. We've been getting a lot of people participating in that over the last couple of days, as you can imagine. And then also our social media channels, our Facebook page, our Instagram that Nathan Mueller has been so diligently updating. It's another great way to stay informed. And also the GLWA website, glwater.org, is another great resource. And the last thing that I wanted to mention on the topic of water is the distribution center. We have been talking about that, but again, for those who might be listening in on this meeting a little bit later, the Village of Rochester Hills, specifically the Von Maur location, is where we are having a water distribution center set up. Today we went through for the first occurrence of this was this afternoon. Residents were very grateful, very patient. There's a huge demand. We will continue to keep the water coming up over there over the next week or so. And we went through everything. Today we had 900 individual gallons and 288 cases that were delivered and promptly gobbled up. So working on that, and we'll continue to keep everyone updated as best as we can, and certainly thank all our residents for their patience. Believe it or not, I've got a few non-water related updates to share as well. Firstly, we were pleasantly surprised last Monday to find that our Right Down the Street podcast was featured on the front page of the Oakland Press. We have now exceeded over 10,000 downloads on Buzzsprout, which is our streaming platform. And our next podcast features the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, so look for that coming any day now. The art on Auburn 2 was installed recently at the new Brooklands Plaza on Auburn Road in the Brooklands corridor, and we want to offer our thanks to all of the all the artists and the volunteers from Pate Creek Center of the Arts who helped with the latest effort to brighten up the park. It really does look fantastic. We're excited to show that off. Last week, Mayor Barnett was invited to participate in a special ceremony at West Middle School where the PTSA there was presented with a national award from Walmart to support their Teachers Lounge. This was part of Teacher Appreciation Week. Congratulations to the school and to the PTSA. Afterwards, rumor has it Mayor was invited to play a pickup basketball game, but he mumbled something about a hamstring injury and scurried off. I can't confirm that, but coming up, we have our annual Oak in the Hills event this Saturday at Spencer Park. This is a free event presented in partnership with Oakland County Parks. You can try out all of the activities listed here. It should be a lot of fun. The weather is looking really good for Saturday too, so we hope that keeps it up. And then as Mike Vyzanko mentioned earlier, this is building month, and we have a Meet Your Inspectors event on May 29th. That's at Innovation Hills, so you can get your home improvement questions answered. And finally, we wanted to help promote this e-speaker series, which is coordinated by a local group and hosted at the Adams High School Performing Arts Center. As you can see, there's a fantastic lineup coming late this summer and fall with Mitch Albom, David Pogue, and Scott Hamilton. You can get more information and tickets online at espeakerseries.com. And that is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sudrovich. I don't see any other council comments or concerns here. We will move over to Mr. Christ for our attorney's report.
Thank you, President Carlock. No legal report tonight.
Excellent. Next up, new business. Item 2026-0231, request for approval of the purchase agreement for 884 North Adams Road.
Good evening, President Carlock, and Vice President Mangioli, City Council, and Mayor Barnett, Representative Aaron. Before we get started, I just wanted to say one thing, well-deserved to the building department on their monthly and the DPS for their public infrastructure. If you notice, my recognition as the West Nile County agent buried in the consent agenda is also very well deserved. But seriously, in front of you, appreciate your consideration tonight of the purchase agreement for 884 North Adams Road. And this has been, negotiated over a while, and appreciate council's consideration. Mr. Warholic is in the audience, and we appreciate his time on working through this with here. And so the purchase is requested for $775,000 as presented. We've been working with the attorney on a draft purchase agreement that both parties are finding acceptable at this time. Of course, prior to closing, we would do a phase 1 environmental, which is standard for all of our properties, just to ensure that there is no unexpected issues there, and that we would hope to close soon after that. I do want to mention also that the funding on this, because it appears that it is over budget, which it is, because we did not budget for this because we did not know. Fortuitous timing with the audit, of course, on this, that the current funding would come from the balance of the capital fund, but per Mr. Snyder on the next budget amendment with, of course, council's approval, we would take from the I don't want to call it extra, but the $1.4 million that is above the general capital fund policy that right now would move into the capital fund. So while it is currently not budgeted, it won't necessarily affect that bottom line on that. So this is 5 acres of property adjacent to Nowicki Park to the north. That would serve as a great buffer for the park and possibly future possibilities there. But with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elbert. Yeah, this is it's been a long time, and I think it's a great move for the city to consider this. So we do have some council comments. Vice President Mangioli.
Thank you, President Carlock. Thank you very much, Mr. Elbert, for bringing this forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Warholic, for letting us get to an agreement that lets us add that acreage to the park. I happen to live in Brookdale Woods, so pull out a Palmyra Drive and I see the White House almost every time. So I'm looking forward to adding that into the park. As Mr. Elbert indicated, we do have the finances to cover this. We've just heard from our financial auditor how well we do things. We have the money available in our funds to be able to do this without negatively impacting any other projects in the city. And we do have also the opportunity to make Nowicki Park even bigger and better than we were planning on it being. Though there are no plans to construct any part of the park on the property at this time, it would probably be phase 2 of Nowicki Park, right?
Yeah, that's correct. There would be no way to add to the current addition in the bid process that council has already approved, and of course it would require quite a bit of work before that could happen. So It'll be part of the CIP process if it goes forward in the future for your consideration.
So I'm looking forward to just moving that Nowicki sign maybe a little bit further to the north so it's more centered on the park property itself. And with that, President Carlock, I proudly move the resolution in our packet, and so glad to see us adding more green space, less development in our community. Better get it done before the zoning changes. But thank you very much again, Mr. Warholic, for doing business with the city of Rochester Hills.
Thank you very much, Vice President Mangioli. I have a motion by Vice President Mangioli, seconded by Mr. Blair. I don't see any further council comments or questions, so I'll read the resolution here. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council approves the offer to purchase agreement between Michael Warholic as seller and City of Rochester Hills as purchaser for a 5-acre parcel of real property located at 884 North Adams Road, parcel ID 70-15-08-100-005, Rochester Hills, Michigan, in the amount of $775,000. As well as any associated closing fees, and further authorizes the mayor to execute any and all necessary agreements to complete the purchase. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Warholic, for working with us on this.
Thank you.
Next up, item 2026-000225, request for purchase authorization, DPS Engineering, contract blanket purchase order for replacement of the Livernois fencing in the amount of $351,583 with a 10% project contingency in the amount of $35,158.30 for a total not to exceed project amount of $386,741.30. Motor City Fencing, Rochester Hills, Michigan. Ms. Ballant.
Good evening again. Joining me tonight is Chris Shepard, our Field Operations Manager. He has worked tirelessly on this Livernois fence replacement project. So to modernize the infrastructure along Livernois Road, the DPS recommends replacing the nearly 30-year-old obsolete fencing with durable, easily maintained Trex material, which is 95% recycled wood fibers and plastic. We followed the competitive bidding process, and Motor City Fencing has been selected as the lowest responsible bidder. So with that, if you have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you very much. We do have some questions. Mr. Blair.
Thank you, President Carlock. Very much appreciate the proactive posture here. I know that fence. I know that the stuff grows through it, and I think there was some damage to it. So getting something in there that's easier to maintain, it's fantastic. And I'm just super excited that you guys found a vendor in the city of Rochester Hills. That was just icing on the cake. So thank you so much for that. Move this, President Carlock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. I see no further comments. I have a motion by Mr. Blair, seconded by Councilwoman Neubauer. I will read the resolution here. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes a contract blanket purchase order for replacement of the Livernois fencing to Motor City Fencing, Rochester Hills, Michigan, in the amount of $351,583 with a 10% contingency in the amount of $35,158.30 for a total not to exceed project amount of $386,741.30, and further authorizes the procurement manager to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. Further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon the parties' entry into and execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, you're not going anywhere, I see. Request for purchase authorization, item 2024-0037, request for purchase authorization, DPS Engineering, increase to contract blanket purchase order for underground utility repairs and related services in the amount of $500,000 for a new not to exceed amount of $1,550,000 through January 31st, 2027, Superior Excavating, Auburn Hills, Michigan. Ali Construction. Ali, okay. Construction Company Incorporated, Shelby Township, Michigan. Ms. Ballant.
Thank you. So we're here tonight. We had a critical sewer failure on Stanford Circle, and to maintain the rapid response for future infrastructure projects or concerns, DPS is requesting an increase to the existing underground utility repair contract. Stanford Circle right now is estimated to be about $315,000 to make the repair. It was an unexpected repair. There are 3 dips in the main, but there's a lot going on. Road has to be replaced, driveways have to be replaced, storm sewer has to be replaced. And so we reached out to Superior Excavating, who has worked with Rochester Hills for many, many years and does a really good job. And they are on board to help us do the repair. But with that, we need to increase the blanket. I believe there was around $200,000 remaining on the blanket. We increased it a little bit more just to cover us through the end of the year in case another unexpected project does occur. I do want to say that we are continually monitoring, our sanitary sewer system, obviously our water systems best that we can by televising. We have an ongoing sewer rehab project that we're putting together now, but unfortunately, this was just something that we weren't aware of until we started televising. It impacted some neighbors with backups. So with that, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Perfect, thank you very much. So fun story, I have a patch of grass that won't grow in my front yard in a circle about this big. And last year, the DPS crew came out and said, hey, we need to uncover that manhole in your front lawn and run a TV down it. And I said, manhole? I assumed it was a tree that had been there. Nope, they peeled off the grass, stuck it down, pulled out the manhole cover, ran the camera down it, put the grass back in. So they're
That makes
everywhere.
sense.
They're everywhere.
They are.
So, thank you very much. We do have some council comments here. We'll start with Ms. Neubauer.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that, for full disclosure, this was brought to the attention of the city by me, because Stanford Circle is my street. And the sewer backup happened to my neighbors. And I will say the city's response was very, very quick. It was a pretty gross situation. And I just want to say thank you, because it was pretty traumatizing for the people who lived on the street. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate how quickly you guys moved on it and how willing you are to resolve this, especially in light of what happened this week. I think it's so important for us to have the resources to fix our infrastructure, to make sure it's properly maintained, and to make sure that our residents don't have water and sewer issues. So thank you so much. Because it's my street and because I was the one who brought it to the attention, I'm not going to make the motion, but I just wanted to say thank you. So.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Neubauer. We do have additional comments. Mr. Blair.
Thank you, President Carlock. I'm sure part of the reason it was so expedited is they were just concerned what you would do if...
Wasn't I pure sunshine?
She was.
I was pure
She was.
sunshine, contrary to popular belief.
Thank you for bringing this item to us. I think this is, a perfect time to just ask the question that's probably on a lot of our minds, which is, these things happen, and how do we plan for that? Like, on a particular year, do we say, you know what, we're probably going to have maybe 3 pipes fail, and it's going to cost, $150,000 each? Or do we look back and say, okay, well, we had 4 failures last year, and it cost us $500,000? How do you sort of plan for the unexpected? I've never really understood that.
Sure, that's a really good question. This contract actually started, I think over 10 years ago, and it was an unexpected sewer collapse, and we weren't prepared to address it. We had to come to city council, walk on, ask for a couple $100,000. So ever since then, we just have kind of taken a certain amount of money and put it in the different funds. I will certainly this year go back and look, and we do sometimes we'll go back and pull the invoices that we paid IALI or Superior the prior year and kind of see where we sit, and I'll do that again this year. So it's a placeholder as a just in case, but we don't know. But we're very fortunate that we have the ability to do that, and we have someone on call to do that. It's been a game changer, and we've had to use this contract, unfortunately, every year. Sometimes very small. This one's a pretty large one, pretty significant.
Well, I think the city does it much better than our neighbors. My parents live in Bloomfield Township, and they had to put $50,000 into their drain tile and sump pumps because the city will not fix the storm sewers. They keep pointing the fingers, and the fact that we take ownership and are able to respond quickly is a real testament to how devoted our team is. So thank you for that, Tracy. We really appreciate your hard work. Back to you, Prez. And I move the resolution. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Blair. So I have a motion by Mr. Blair, seconded by Ms. Menino. I don't see any further council comments or questions here, so I will read the resolution. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes an increase to the blanket purchase order contract for underground utility repairs and related services to Superior Excavating, Auburn Hills, Michigan, as the primary vendor, and ILE Construction Company Incorporated, Shelby Township, Michigan, as the secondary vendor in the amount of $500,000 for a new not-to-exceed amount of $1,550,000 through January 31st, 2027. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you.
Next up, item 2026-0222, request for purchase authorization, DPS Engineering contract blanket purchase order for GIS consulting services in the amount not to exceed $150,000 through May 31st, 2029. Synergy Consulting, Pontiac, Michigan. Ms. Ballant.
Thank you. To maintain the security and operational integrity of the city's infrastructure data, the Department of Public Services is requesting a contract be made with Synergy Consulting of Pontiac to modernize our geographic information, GIS system, before its mandatory retirement in 2028. As you know, we have a very strong but tiny GIS team. They're very talented and knowledgeable, but we're at a point where they need some additional assistance, and that's what we're hoping that this contract gives them. This is a multi-phase project that focuses on upgrading the core platform architecture and developing specialized digital bridge to ensure that the critical maintenance workflows for water, sewer, and roads continue without interruption. Synergy was unanimously selected from 18 respondents to our RFP, providing best overall value and technical approach that our GIS team is looking for. So with that, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much. I don't see any council comments or questions. I have a motion by Ms. Neubauer, seconded by Ms. Menino. Read the resolution here. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council hereby authorizes a contract blanket purchase order for the GIS consulting services to Synergy Consulting, Pontiac, Michigan, in the not-to-exceed amount of $150,000 through May 31st, 2029, and further authorizes the mayor to execute an agreement on behalf of the city. Further resolved that the city's acceptance of the proposal and approval of the award of a contract shall be contingent and conditioned upon parties' entry into and execution of a written agreement acceptable to the city. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next up, any other business? Looks like we do have some questions or comments here. Ms. Neubauer.
Thank you, President Carlock. So we've had a little bit of more information come to us, and I just want to start off by saying that our clerk, Leanne Scott, is the most efficient person and is amazing, and I'm so thankful for her. She submitted back in April to the state the resolution that we passed to increase to have the fire millage put on the ballot. We did not expect the state to respond in a timely manner because that's kind of their MO. But I think Clerk Scott's efficiency maybe motivated them to be efficient, and we had a response from them back within, I think, less than a week, right? About a week. I don't want to be overgenerous with them, but about a week's time. We had originally passed a resolution to have the millage go on the November ballot, but because it was returned to us so quickly, we now have an opportunity to put it on the August ballot. By placing it on the August ballot, we will be able, one of the reasons that it was so important is we haven't had an increase in our fire millage in 1 or 2 decades, something like that, 1 decade. And our fire department has done presentations to us, has reached out to us, and our residents are suffering as a result of that. We don't have the resources available to attend to every call. We can't have our residents be put in a precarious situation, and it's at no fault of the department. We just don't have the resources. So by placing it on the August ballot rather than the November ballot, we will be able to, from an operational standpoint, the fire department will be able to have more time to recruit if it passes, enable onboard new members to onboard new members sooner, and to minimize current staffing issues. And anything that we can do to support our fire department and first responders, I think it's our duty to do that. So with that, I would like to make a motion to rescind and replace paragraph 6 of the fire millage item 2026-0171 that was passed April 13th, to amend it with, instead of having the millage appear on the November ballot, change the word November to August so that the voters will have the ability to vote for it in August. I would also like to caution our residents. If it goes on the August ballot, there will be 3 millages. We need to individually look at those millages. None of us are excited about paying more taxes. Some of us view the fire and first responders as a necessity. Some of us have had to call on our fire and police more recently than others. And we want to make sure that if your family member or loved one needs the service, it's available to them. We can't do it with the amount of staff we have now. So please individually look at your millage. With that, I would like to make that motion to rescind and replace paragraph 6.
Thank you very much, Ms. Neubauer. I think at this time it'd be good to have Mr. Snyder and Chief Gary come up, just because we do have another council person that wants to speak, but in case you get some questions that, so we do have Vice President Mangioli that would like to say some words.
Thank you, President Carlock. You missed out on having the chance of reading 2.5 pages of millage language on April 13th. So I would encourage any of the residents who want to have more information about what the fire department presented that evening. They can watch the YouTube channel, see the recording. They can look at our registrar and find the agenda topics and the detailed presentation that the fire department went through. I want to say this is one topic that I don't remember having more conversation about either at a council meeting or offline with individuals relative to when should this go on the ballot, August or November. It was August, then it was November, then it was November, now it's August. As Councilwoman Neubauer mentioned, there will be 3 millages on the August ballot. We don't know of any others that will be in November. And so in the conversation I've had, people have said, which one do you think would be better? I would have preferred November because I think you'd be by yourself. But if one of the millages in August is going to be large, and there's also going to be a significant vote no effort on that millage as well, and it could negatively impact the fire department. My understanding, and I'm going to ask Clerk Scott or Mr. Snyder or the Chief Gary, I understand if it fails, we don't come back for 2 years. Is that correct? That's correct. So it's a do or die in August. If it does not pass in August, we cannot ask the voters again for 2 years, which would be 2 years where we have potential staffing shortages at different times of the day, on different days of the week, depending on how many calls we're responding to at a given time. And so we're putting significant risk on a passage in August on our community for 2 years. So maybe help me, Chief Gary, Mr. Snyder, why August is better than November.
Good evening, President Carlock, Vice President Mangioli, Council. From a fire department standpoint, August is better for a couple of reasons. As was stated earlier, it gives us more time to recruit individuals, things like that. One of the other things we're doing is we're working with a company and we're going to submit a SAFER grant to pay for those 12 firefighters for the first 3 years. As you can imagine, that is a significant amount of money. The way the SAFER grant works is we have 30 days to accept the grant, and then we have 180 days to hire those individuals. So all the grants are awarded by the end of September. So if we wait till the November election to accept that grant, we have to file for extensions, which may or may not be approved. So from a logistical standpoint of the SAFER grant and the potential federal funds for that, that makes a significant difference. So operationally, that's kind of where we're looking at.
Okay.
And I can probably jump in here from a finance or budget perspective. So the August election is August 4th. Per our city charter, the city council or the budget will be presented to city council on August 11th. That actually gives us enough time to include, if it's voted yes, to include basically the new firefighters in the 2027 budget, so it would be apples to apples that you'd be looking at. And that's not the biggest deal of it all, but really the biggest deal of them all is the millage rate itself. Per our budget process, typically the last meeting in September, the budget is approved as well as the millage rates, and we have our package for the upcoming January 1st year set by the end of September. Millage rates need to be submitted to Oakland County or the local counties by October 1st. So now, that's not to say that if the millage was approved in November, we couldn't amend the millage rate resolution, but there's one meeting, one shot. I believe it's the November 9th meeting, which is an extremely quick turnaround. And we all know if there's weather or there's not a quorum or something else, we're kind of out of luck. So it makes it a little bit more logistically challenging, and it puts a big risk on one date. We have one chance at it if it were to pass. So it would take a lot of that stress and uncertainty out.
So we have lots of risk regardless of which way we go, whether
Yes.
it be you're one of three. People might be saying, hey, I'm paying $5 a gallon for gas. I can't afford to pay another millage at this time. If we wait, then we can't get it into November's millage rate, so that means we couldn't levy it until the following June. So, but we could use the grant to hire staff in the interim. And you give council that challenge of having to weigh all of these different risks that are associated with it. And to me, the biggest piece of new information was the 2-year wait. We can't afford to put our residents at risk for an additional 2 years, given the fact that we've seen a significant increase in the number of ambulance runs just in the last year and a half. So we need to be proactive. Our first strategic objective is safety first, and fire funding is like the #1 goal of that objective. So it is a hard one for me to make personally on this. But on the other side, I couldn't make any motions when I was running the meeting in April. So I will second Ms. Neubauer's motion for this, because I do believe in safety first for our community and the importance of this millage passing in our community. And while there may be a lot of noise about voting no, hopefully it stays on that one millage in particular and not on the 2 that the city is doing, given that we have shown how responsible we are with our dollars and our audits and our budget to make sure that our tax dollars are used appropriately and we're keeping our residents safe. So it's a challenge, but that one we're not willing to walk away from. So thank you very much for bringing it forward, and thank you very much, Ms. Neubauer, for bringing forward the motion. So I second that motion. Thank you, President Carlock.
Thank you very much, Vice President Mangioli. We do have some additional council comments. Mr. Blair.
Thank you, President Carlock. You know, this little handout, Joe, is really phenomenal, because I was flipping through it, and what Councilwoman Mangioli said had me flip back and check something. You know, for a house that costs about $300,000 in the city, you're paying about $30 a month for fire service. And considering that will get a fire truck to your house in arguably the best response time in most of our neighboring communities, means that's probably the best bargain for your dollar that any homeowner can pay. I not to respectfully disagree with you. If I'm putting gas in my tank, I'm not going to say that's not worth it. That is fantastic value for taxpayer money, and I think to expand the department to meet a growing need is very, very appropriate. So you've got my support for that millage. However I can help you spread the word, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
Just remember, it's educate,
It's
not
educate.
advocate.
That's right.
Educate. Thank you.
We'll all be on an education campaign.
Support. Support.
Yeah. Some additional comments. Ms. Menino.
Yes, thank you, President Carlock. And, you know, I am definitely for this millage, don't get me wrong, but I have some of the concerns that Vice President Mangioli brought up. Number one, you've got the other initiatives on the ballot that are tax increases. And I do hear a lot from my constituents on the taxes that we're paying. I can That is not a good thing, and I understand why we want to do it. Secondly, it's the turnout level at the primary in August. It's a much different electorate, a much different base. And I don't know if we've considered that at all. I know last year when we ran the election, I think we had Clerk Scott, it was like 75, 80% was just absentee voting. There was not even any hardly turnout at the polls. So that's going to impact it as well. And I'm just not sure if we've thought through all that, because I know we all want this to pass. There's a lot of reasons why doing it in August makes more sense financially from a process standpoint. But in the end, we want it to go through. And if we move it to August, there has to be a very strong education/communication program going out at the same time that we're getting the turnout and that we're making sure that they understand the importance of that versus the other increases. So that's more of a comment. I'm going to go with your recommendation, but I've got a lot of concerns with the date change, I'll be honest.
Thank you very much, Ms. Menino. Ms. Sudrovich, can you take for action item for administration that, the council does have concerns and that we do want to make sure that a education campaign is in the plan, and as soon as something is solidified, you bring that to council? Thank you. Ms. Neubauer.
Thank you, President Carlock. I feel like Columbo when he would say one more thing, so here's a couple more things. One of the, frankly, I was hesitant to move it too, but I rely on the expertise and the needs of the needs of our community and the expertise of our amazing department heads and the fire department. Nobody knows, just like what's happening with the housing bill, nobody knows what we need more in our city than we do. Nobody knows what the fire department needs more than the fire department, especially when they're going to our ever-growing aging population, our young kids. I mentioned this when you did the presentation in April. The amount of times that you guys go out to the schools, frankly, was shocking to me. And I have school-age children. A couple of us have school-age children, and we need you available for those runs. I do want to make sure that people understand that this millage in particular will go only to the Rochester Hills residents. The other millages that are being one of the other millages is not. So we have to distinguish between those items. And it was, when we were having these conversations, I was reminded of how educated our voters are. And we are banking on the education and confidence that we have on our residents to understand that there is a need for this particular millage to pass, and that we are advocating for its passage for the safety and well-being of our residents. The other two we can have other discussions about at other times, but this is a critical need. And because a critical need can't be postponed, that's one of the reasons why we're moving this, or why we are asking to move this to August. So I'm done. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Ms. Neubauer. Mr. Skelsey.
Yeah, I have a question. Can we decide where it is put on the ballot, if there's three or? Okay. I'm just saying, if it was at the top, most people are like, oh, first one is the best one.
Put it on the back, make it smaller.
That's it.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further council comments or questions here. I will echo a lot of the same concerns. There's no perfect answer to this. You have 7 residents sitting here that are making this decision based on the best information that we have at a very specific moment in time. I think we're making a well-educated decision. We have different backgrounds, different areas, different interests at mind here, and the number one thing we all share is the desire, the need to ensure that public safety remains our number one priority. So, with that, I don't see further comments or questions. I have a motion by Ms. Neubauer, seconded by Vice President Mangioli. to move this to August. So based on what Ms. Neubauer proposed, the resolution would read something like this. Resolved that the Rochester Hills City Council rescinds and replaces paragraph 6 of 2026-0171 that was passed on April 13th, 2026, with this following paragraph. 6, the proposed charter amendment shall be submitted to the qualified electors of this city at the general election to be held in the city of Rochester Hills on Tuesday, August 4th, 2026. And the city clerk is hereby directed to give notice of the election and notice of registration therefore in the manner prescribed by law, and do all things and provide all supplies necessary to submit the proposed charter amendment to a vote of the electors as required by law. Mr. Chris, does that cover it?
It does.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Neubauer, for bringing that up.
Thank you, City Council.
Any other business before the Rochester Hills City Council? I don't see anyone here. Next meeting of the Rochester Hills City Council is Monday, June 8th, 2026, 7 p.m. here in the auditorium. I have a motion by Ms. Neubauer, seconded by Vice President Mangioli to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much.